Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the Huddle, the Review.com's weekly high school sports show. I'm Rob Toder, joined as always by Mike Brown, and it's week 8 of the high school football season in the Alliance area. And the Marlington Dukes continue to roll, Mike. And one thing that I've noticed in the NBC this year, you better be able to score points if you're going to compete. Marlington leading the way. They're undefeated, averaging 42 points a game in league play. West Branch is 2-2 in the league, averaging 28 points a game.
Right.
And they're the 5th highest scoring team in the NBC. All 4 teams that won last week scored in the 40s. So let's start with Marlington. They play host to Minerva. On paper, it's a mismatch, but the Lions are playing better.
Yeah, Minerva's getting better. The scores are getting closer for them. They have a really young team, and I think that's going to benefit Coach Willison down the road. Right now, it's still some growing pains, but that's a tough assignment. Minerva playing at Marlington Friday night, and Chris Pennell's already thrown for 1,500 yards, and Sampson's rushed for well over 1,000 yards already. And the Dukes really have it rolling offensively and defensively too. They've got nice defense as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The other 3 games are pretty good matchups on paper. Alliance travels to Salem. The Aviators are averaging 31 points a game in league play. Salem is averaging 26. So again, the winning team, you better hit 30 if you're going to win this football game.
Yeah, I agree with that, Rob. And you know what? We go through the gridiron guesswork, and usually I don't have too much trouble picking games. There's a couple games this week that I honestly don't know who's going to win, and that's one of them. Because that could be that game. I think they're both going to score on one another. That game could come down to an extra possession because of a turnover or something like that. I could see that happening very easily.
Okay, one of the other matchups in the NBC, Canton South and West Branch at Clinton Haycock Stadium. West Branch, as I said, averaging 28 points a game. That's only 5th best in league play in the NBC. Canton South is averaging 29 points a game, and both teams are 2-2 in the league. So again, you better hit 30 if you're going to win this game.
That's right, and I think that's going to be a game in the 30s, possibly for both teams. And again, that could come down to an extra possession because of a turnover. But I definitely see that a game in the 30s because they both have prolific offenses. They both have dynamic playmakers on offense, but they both have trouble on defense, stopping people. So I could see that pattern continuing Friday night.
Canton South, even in a defeat last week at Marlington, impressed me getting 35 points on
they're
that
getting
Marlington
better.
defense.
Yeah, they're getting a lot better. They're doing a good job. They're getting some people. They still have some guys out for the injury, some skilled people, but they're getting some people back, and I think that's helping them.
Okay, and the other matchup, Louisville and Carrollton. The Warriors started out the season 3-0.
Yeah.
They're one of the teams actually having trouble scoring in the NBC play, but they're still averaging 21 points a game.
Right.
And that game's at Carrollton, and it's always a tough place to play. And Louisville averaging 38 points a game in league play. And again, I think it comes down to that extra possession you talked about earlier.
Right, and I think with Louisville too, I mean, they have to look, obviously the league is still there, even though they're behind Marlington, but I think they've got to look postseason. I think Louisville has to win out and hope and maybe get a little bit of help. It's one of those kind of years because, you and I were talking off camera, Rob, the NBC, because 4 of the schools are Division IV now and Louisville's a Division III. When you're playing those league teams, you're losing a half point to a point, and that multiplies over a league season, and that hurts them. So I think Louisville definitely has to run the table, get a little bit of help to be able to get in the playoffs this year.
Okay, let's turn our attention to the Inter-Tri-County League. The Sebring Trojans are 2-5, and they go to Lowville. The Rockets are 0-6, so looking good for a Sebring win this week.
I totally agree with that. And Sebring's got some really nice skill with Robbie Rouse and Colton Brown and Nate Martin. I mean, those are some great players. And I think they've just gone through a really tough stretch in their schedule. I think Lowville's a team that's really young this year. Even though the game's at Lowville, I think that's a very winnable game for Sebring. I'll be surprised if they don't win that game Friday night.
And for another reason, you go for the pregame meal at the Hard Rock Cafe.
Right.
They got the
there
best concession stand
Been there
around.
and done that.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I highly recommend the wedding soup. Trap game, I think, for Western Reserve because they got an emotional win over McDonald. Been rivals for years. And they're back home against a team that Jackson Milton is 5-2, and I think Western. You've always said you're never the same team two weeks in a row.
Yeah.
This could be a trap game for the Blue Devils.
And that's very true, Rob. That's a really good point. I think with Western Reserve, I think they're coming around, but boy, you got to get back up after a big and emotional game because obviously Western Reserve McDonald is the rivalry. especially for Western Reserve. And I think they've got a Jackson Milton team. And again, like Louisville, I think for Western Reserve to make the playoffs or have a shot to make the playoffs, they have to get this game because Jackson Milton's worth a lot of computer points. And if you look at the rest of Western Reserve's schedule, there's not as many computer points there. They have to get this one and then run the table probably and get a little bit of help there too.
Yeah. Let's and also in the Inter Tri-County League United. After having to bite off Crestview and South Range the last 2 weeks, get a little bit of a break. They're playing host to Wellsville on Friday night. And in the Portage Trail Conference, the rivalry, Southeast and Waterloo.
Right, yeah. Southeast has done a nice job this year. You know what, Mike DeVise at Waterloo has made some progress with that team. You know, he's trying to get his program established out there, and I think that they're coming around there. So, and that's you never know in a rivalry, Rob. You know, you think, well, this team should be, but a rivalry, you never know. You just never know. So that should be a good game Friday night as well.
That's one of those rivalries where if you go 1-9, but that one wins against Southeast or Waterloo, you're okay with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and of course in the North Coast Leagues, St. Thomas rolling along, and they play host to Trinity. Trinity's 1-6. The Knights are 6-1, and they're cruising towards the playoff.
They are. What a nice team. And you know the thing we haven't said about St. Tom this year, they're doing that with a roster in the low third. I think it's like 31 or 32 players on St. Tom's roster playing a really tough physical schedule where you can get, guys tend to get hurt on a physical schedule, something like that. They've done a great job. They've maintained everything, and I think they're a team like Marlington just steaming toward the playoffs.
Okay. Well, make sure you check out the Alliance Review. We'll have previews of all those games this week in the print and online. We'll have video highlights of those games as well. And we'll have all complete coverage in Saturday's Alliance Review and thereview.com. So until next week, for Mike, this is Rob. We'll talk to you then.